This is our number one box. Today we're having to go in to, I'm just getting buzzed a bit, have to go in between each of the frames. We've got queen excluders between each frame because we've lost the queen in there somewhere. She's laid brood or had laid brood in the top three chambers. So we must have somehow managed to get her in the upper chambers when we put brood up there. So we're going to go in today to see if we can isolate her and find out where she is and put her back in the bottom where she belongs. Which is very goddamn heavy. Has that got this? Damn.
That's excluder gone. I need some. Hold still for the camera.
Hmm?
Hold still. Go for it.
Okay, while we were doing B1, there's a swarm starting to happen just here. Same tree as it's happened before, probably a little bit taller. We'll just let them form and see what happens. There's larvae in there, like little larvae. So she's in the top.
Well, that's a bonus for us, you know. You don't have to do as much work.
As long as I haven't killed her with leaf. Just drinking. There's larvae in that too. That makes it about 6 days old or whatever. Oops. Sorry, ladies. There's cat brood in the middle of that. Another. Another corn cell. So you can see just starting on the bottom. My queen there. Okay, now we're going into the bottom box. Taking the queen excluder off, there was a lot of bees in here. What I was doing was looking at each of the cells, each of the frames to see if there was evidence. Well, first of all, if we could find the queen, and if we couldn't find the queen, then it was, could I find evidence of either eggs, which I think I've only seen once or twice before, they're so hard to see, or young larvae. If you've got young larvae, it sort of indicates you've got or had a queen laying there within the last 3 to 6 days. And certainly going through the frames, I did find evidence of larvae in the cells. There was just so many bees in the bottom, and the other thing, there was a lot of bees buzzing around. I think in hindsight, the bees buzzing around, I think, might have been the start of some robbing behaviour, which continued on for a few days, probably up to a week or so afterwards. We experienced some of the bees trying to rob. I used a combination of smoke to settle the bees down, but I also used water with a little bit of sugar in it. That seems to work a little bit better and is less invasive. It forces them to have to stop and clean themselves and clean each other, and they tend to be a little bit calmer when I use the sugar water on them. So really all I'm doing is going through each of the frames, trying to see the queen, evidence of the queen, and larva, because I just want to be sure that the queen is in the bottom and not still in the top box where we saw there was some capped brood, but it wasn't until we went right through it. Like this particular frame's got a lot of pollen tucked away, so it's pretty much got a good source of food in the bottom there as well. So just going through each of the frames, looking for the queen. The white cells at the top, that's capped honey. And you tend to find the capped honey at the top of the frames where the queen lays, and it forms a bit of a barrier around it, like a food barrier. So the frame I'm pulling out there, that was a newer frame that had been put in the box a week or two previously, and the bees had drawn that right out. But there was a lot of bees in this box, and can say we didn't actually see the queen at all, but we certainly saw evidence that the queen had been in the bottom. We have seen the queen before in this box. She's a big golden queen, but weren't having any luck on this particular day. Just too many bees. We did at one stage think about splitting, but also thinking it's a bit late in the season. You might notice that I'm wearing red gloves. The gloves are actually just like dishwashing gloves. They're not very thick, but what they do give you over the leather gloves is a bit more feeling in the fingers, so you can feel when you're going to grab a bee or whatever, and you can also feel when you're getting stung by a bee, but they tend not to go all the way in. Certainly feel quite safe with the latex gloves on. That's just all the bees at the front of the box at the moment, because we've got the lid resting against the front. Now what I also do around here, I'm shaking the bees off. The frame that I've pulled out, that certainly upset them, the frame that I pulled out is pretty much just nectar and food, so it's got pollen and nectar. It's pretty much a food frame. So what I was doing to make some more room for down the bottom is I end up putting a blank frame in there, because if you put the blank frames, it gives the bees a little bit of work to do. They have to draw it out for the queen to lay on, and also to build up for their food stores again. I put that frame into one of the upper boxes, so I wasn't taking it away at all. I was just moving it up above to make them work a little bit harder and also to prevent swarming from happening. So you can see from the number of bees on the top of the boxes, on top of the frames there, that it's a very healthy hive. This is one of the very strong hives, one of the first hives we got from our mentor, Bill. So that's why it's called B1. It's Bill 1 hive, and it is number 1 hive. But the bees tend to be a little bit more feisty in this one than one of our swarm boxes that we got from Borsbrook. That's a much calmer hive. This particular scene here is just the bees all over it. They're relatively calm. They're not running around crazy. You can see the bees flying pretty crazy around it, but they're just sort of walking around quite calmly. And I have to say, just from the behaviour of the bees on the tops of the frames, I couldn't tell you where the queen is, because they're just, the way they're acting is pretty consistent, like they're very busy. It was a slightly overcast day from memory, so I'm using the smoke at the moment to avoid squashing bees when I put the queen excluder back on, because the assumption is she's in the bottom, and we'll only know when we go back in there again, but the idea of the smoke is just to move them out of the way so I can put the queen excluder on and then start to reassemble, putting all the frames back on, the supers back on, and the frames back in, so the worker bees can move through the queen excluder. The drones can't, they're a bit too fat. The drones are the male bees, and the queen is too big to go through the excluder as well. So just putting aside that frame that I took out of the bottom there that had the food in, that'll end up going into one of the upper supers. So I had a little bit of trouble with that smoker. It kept going out. In fact, we've pretty much stopped using that one because it also seems to self-ignite, so it's not a very good smoker at all. Again, just moving the bees off the top of the super. This box is quite heavy, this super, so it's a case of sitting it back down on top, trying not to squash bees, which is a bit unavoidable. Putting it on, and then they've got their first super back on top again, so you just line it up from the corners. You can see the white stuff on the B1 box on the bottom there, that's actually wax on the outside, so not sure why they do that, but they should be putting it inside and making honey and making comb from that. So they're the bees that are just hanging off the queen excluders we have between each of the frames. I don't put the queen excluders back in because our assumption is the queen's not in the upper supers, so it's just a case of putting the all the boxes back together, the frames back together, and seeing if we can re-establish having the queen in the bottom. That's what we're hoping anyway. Thanks for watching our videos. I hope you enjoy it. It's a bit of a diary for us as to what's going on when we go into the bees. We hope you enjoy these and any of the other videos we make, and we hope that you subscribe and continue to watch. Thanks.